Some 32 years between, and the Lions have answered yet another question. The first one came on the first day of this season, and that season is not over just yet for these Detroit Lions. They've answered another 31-23. Jared Goff sterling late in this game with a beautiful touchdown pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown to put his team ahead 2 touchdowns. Now Tampa did score and did see the ball again, but it was that interception by Barnes that put this one to bed. Detroit headed to San Francisco for the NFC title game. Joe Musso in studio alongside the 2-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden. B-Mac.
Yes, sir.
This is exactly where the Detroit Lions expected and wanted to be when we looked at this team at the beginning of the season. All that they've done up to this moment was all that they did in this game. Execution, intensity, it was the calling card. What was the difference in this 60 minutes in your eyes?
Just the mentality that we've watched with the Detroit Lions the entire season surfaced in this ball game. The grittiness that they play with, and also too they have the ability to incorporate a little bit of flash and pizzazz in their game when they're throwing the football in the unique style they throw the football with. But it all boils down for me, Joe, viewers, when Detroit, when they're running the football with thunder and lightning, David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs, and they get things going with that ground and pound attack, good luck in trying to slow them down. And that was the deciding factor for me in what we saw in the second half offensively for Detroit. Jahmyr Gibbs got going. Remember at halftime, they had 12 rushing attempts for 39 yards. They had 22 passing attempts in a half of play. That's not Detroit-like football. But what they did in the second half, you know what? Let's slow things down and let's show that toughness that we have within the trenches. Let's get Gibbs going. Let's get Montgomery going. They were able to do so. Gibbs finished with 74 yards. As a team in totality, 26 rushing attempts for 114 yards. And, of course, that big-time splash touchdown run by Jahmyr Gibbs. This is the offense, and I said weeks ago, getting ready for the playoffs, they have one of the more balanced offenses in the NFC in regards to playoff football. And if they can just continue to lean on that balance, they're going to find themselves in positions to win ball games like they were able to do today.
And they are big ball games at this juncture of the season. We'll get into that San Francisco matchup soon, but I do want to go further on this game because you talked about Gibbs. We saw a guy in Sam Laporta these last 2 weeks playing obviously through some pain with that knee injury we saw him sustain late in this season. Yeah. So much of what this team has done is that sort of marketing adage of built for this. They were built for this. You were talking about it a little bit in the green room, just how effectively this team has come together from a personnel standpoint. There's obviously a lot of kudos to go around when you're talking about the player personnel department, but what has worked so well and so immediately for this rookie group? We're talking about 25 touchdowns by rookies this season.
Oh, my goodness.
For the Detroit Lions. That is a Super Bowl era record. How has it gone so perfectly?
I'd be remiss if I don't mention and give a shout out to Brad Holmes. I mean, executive GM of the year, whatever it is you want to call him, give him the award, because you talked about the difference makers offensively. Heck, the same can be said for the defensive side. He had a hand to play in them becoming a Detroit Lion. But to answer your question, great teams, they have a mentality, right? And it's about finding players that fit what you want your mentality to be on the football field. For us in Pittsburgh, is he a Steeler? Right? That would be a question personnel members would ask us in regarding a player who we might know. Instantly, we knew what that meant. Is he a Steeler? Is he tough? Does he mind getting dirty? Is he a selfless player? And does he want to win by any means necessary? Meaning he might not be the featured guy, but whatever it takes for him to put his hand in the pile to try to hoist that sticky Lombardi, that's what he's willing to do. So now when you look at Detroit and you look at the personalities they have on their team, they all have the same personalities. Tough, gritty, selfless, hard workers, and they don't mind doing it the dirty way. Getting dirty and getting down and muddy up and doing it as long as they're in a position to win. Sam Laporta, St. Brown, Gibbs, Montgomery. Look at the defensive side. Gardner Johnson. Campbell.
Hutch got home again today.
Hutch. All these guys are gritty. So when you identify what you want your mentality to be defensively, now you got to go find those guys that fit that, and that's what they have in Detroit. And that's the prime definition of building a culture. in football.
And I think some of that culture, some of that identity was on display in the third quarter of this one, because are you a Lion sometimes means, are you willing to push your chips into the middle of the table when no one else wants you to? Down around the goal line, tied at 10, teams sort of going back and forth, jabbing at each other. Fourth down, Dan Campbell decides to go for it. What does it mean?
With his third back, by the way, Reynolds.
And what does it take to be true to your identity in a moment like that?
That's a chest-beating moment. When you know you're in that position and coach is saying, stay out there, right? That's what we do in training camp. Or in situational moments during training camp practices, full padded practice. It's 4th and goal. Defense, you stop them, we win. Offense, we score, we win. That's when you pound your chest. Man-on-man football. We know they're going to run it. Now it's time to play my man is better than your man football. And that's what Dan Campbell has done the entire season. He puts the on his players and say, I believe in you, but I believe in you because I believe you're the tougher bunch. And in that situation, in that moment, that was a defining moment because, as you mentioned, 4th and goal with the 3rd-string running back, we're running it down the teeth of the Buccaneers defense led by the anchor, Vita Vea. We can care less. We believe our guys are tougher than their guys to be able to score, and that kind of jump-started the efforts in the second half by the Detroit Lions. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all be watching the game, and if you're rooting for the Detroit Lions, you bumping your chest too. You hitting your chest. Like, let's go. Yeah, let's go. And when they're successful, guess what you do? You chest bump your nearest fan. That's what they do, and that's what we do. You do it all the time, Joe. I see you.
The only person not rooting for that chest-bumping moment is the audio team in the back. They do appreciate
yeah, I got fired up a little bit.
All of the intensity.
Bump your chest in the back.
You got to say it with your chest sometimes. I think something needs to be said here about Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well, because I don't think it's stepping out of line to say they outperformed expectation. Maybe external expectation. Who knows what the expectation was in the building, but Baker Mayfield making a statement throughout the entirety of this season. It obviously ends with an interception from his hand, but how will you look back upon this season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
Not just with Baker, but as a team, I don't think I know. They earned a lot of respect during this postseason run, right? Because many people felt like, well, the Buccaneers wasn't super steady throughout the regular season, and they kind of benefited from a watered-down division to allow them to get into the playoffs. But what we saw from Tampa, ideally Baker Mayfield was a team that was determined, a team that played with confidence, and they took Detroit down to the wire. You can say whatever you want to say. Yes, Detroit found a way to win, but it wasn't easy peasy like some people thought it would be. It was a competitive ball game. I enjoyed watching the ball game. You enjoyed it. You enjoyed it as well. Now, for Buccaneers fans, it might not have been as enjoyable because they lost, but it was a good quality fight amongst quality teams. And Baker has earned himself a new contract, an extension, in my opinion, for Tampa. I think his style of play fit what they want to do offensively. They allow Baker to show his swag, you know, talk his talk and walk his talk. And I think when he's playing with that mindset, he's playing better football, you know, compared to what we've seen in years past. They got to add some pieces here or there, but when you talk about what they can do moving forward, especially in the NFC South, I mean, you have to like their mindset because, as Todd Bowles mentioned before this ball game, a lot of the players that won that Super Bowl with Tampa, with Tom Brady, and was able to get to multiple Super Bowls, they're still on this team. They understand what it means to be in postseason play and to be able to win significant games in the tournament. So they have a nice nucleus there. The biggest question in regards to Tampa to start the season off was the quarterback's conundrum. I think it's safe to say Baker answered that.
Baker Mayfield, since the day he stepped foot on a football field at the NFL level, has been looking for a home that makes sense.
It makes sense.
It feels like after this season, it makes sense. The season has come to a close for those Tampa Bay Buccaneers. For the Detroit Lions, we'll see you in San Francisco.